Good morning and good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. This morning, I'll read you number 7, Shokushu, living calmness. In a natural state, the weight of objects is always underside. The experience of calmness in our body occurs when every part of our body is naturally underside. Calmness is the state of mind that reflects all things clearly, like the still surface of water. If there is a moon appears. If there is a flying bird, a bird appears. Calmness is our original and natural state. If we can understand this, we can experience true living calmness. This morning, as promised, we're going to explore a mind-body meditation once again. So I've been doing this meditation for around 50 years now. But until I introduced it to Aikido, I didn't need a name for it. And so when I introduced it, I sort of automatically called it whole body meditation, because it involves the whole thing. But as time went on, I realized that people were confused by that name and thought it was like whole body breathing, which is the Kaisho level, the first level of breathing, which just involves following the parts of the breath very carefully. And that's not exactly what this is, so I hope you don't mind. I've changed the name to mind-body meditation. I think it fits very well. So when we meditate, the whole purpose is to be able to rest quietly in everything all at once. When we do this, we experience deep calmness, a sense of great awareness, clarity, equanimity. And there's a kind of a joy in that. It's not the kind of happiness that you might have when you get a nice piece of cake, or a friend says something nice to you. That makes us feel good. But we're not looking for feel good here. This joy is much more one of relief from the bondage that we've experienced our life, throughout our lives. The bondage of our own mind, of course, not anything from the outside world. All our struggle, all our suffering, all our discomfort we cause entirely to ourselves. No one is able to do anything to us, actually. Okay, so learning to master this experience is a lifelong practice, isn't it? I mean, we're still engaged in it, and none of us is perfect yet at it. So this morning we'll review it, this particular all-inclusive form of meditation. Again, one that I very much like. So some schools divide the energy centers in the body into 12 different centers, and some say there's 7 centers, some say there's 5. And that's fine, I agree with all of them. But to make things simple for me, I've always just made it 4. The deepest point in the lower abdomen, the heart, the throat, and the spot between our eyebrows, called tende. Of course, the spot in the lower abdomen we call in Aikido the one point in the lower abdomen. And this point is the center of equality, or it is the center of the mind of equanimity. So that means whoever we see, whatever person, whether it's someone that's being kind to us or being mean to us, we view them the same. We can, of course, see the differences. I'm not saying we're adopting the kind of Pollyanna-ish attitude toward anyone or anything. That's not equanimity at all. Of course, you can perceive everything even more clearly than normal, but you're not obscured by an emotional reaction or a suffering within yourself that keeps you from being able to experience clearly what's happening. So whether it's an event or a person, it's viewed with equanimity. And so the practice that we're going to do is to begin with this lowest center and gradually add on or build these other three centers into the picture. So that don't think of it as trying to think of four things at once. We're not going to do that. We're going to breathe into this first center. We use the breath to unify everything. We breathe into this lowest center. Then we're going to include the heart. So we're breathing into both. Then we're going to include the throat. So we're breathing into all three. And finally, we'll include the tente. So we're breathing into everything all at once. All our mind, all our body. Mind, body, meditation. So once we've established the breath gently pulsing in the one point in the lower abdomen, and I'll take you through it a little later, but as I'm talking about it now, you can certainly experience it. And then very gently, we begin to add in the heart center. The heart, of course, is where we feel loving kindness, where we feel a great sense of togetherness, inclusiveness with everyone. So it's not just the love of like that you feel for one person, like an attachment or something that you like very much, like your new car or something that you're enjoying. That's fine. But we say, well, I really love this car, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about something much more inclusive. So saying, when we talk about loving kindness, we're talking about key extension, key inclusion. So we're including in this feeling we have everyone and everything. And maybe you can think about other people or other things later when you come in contact with them. Of course, all we can experience right now is everything that we're experiencing right now. So it's always whatever's in the moment here. You know, we say sometimes there's a vow to love all sentient beings, to bring them all to fruition. Well, okay, but you're not in front of all sentient beings at every moment, are you? Not relatively speaking. Right? So we have this that we're engaged in. So let's at least engage fully in this rather than thinking, oh, gee, you know, I really should be loving everyone in the universe. Let's start with experiencing our whole body. So that's what this feeling in the heart is all about. And then we move to the throat. And the throat is the organ of speaking and the organ of hearing, sound. It's called Shabda. This is the center of Shabda. That means sound in Sanskrit. So it's like this is where we listen. Not just listening like listening to a sound, not like just listening to my voice, but we listen to everything all at once. In other words, we open ourselves completely and make ourselves available in this way. And like Mother Teresa talks about in that story, when Dan Rather asks her if what she's doing when she's praying, and she says, I'm just listening. And when he asks her what God is doing, she says, just listening. There's only listening. Okay. So it's not like, oh, I hope I can hear something valuable. When we listen, we're not listening for something. We're just listening. So it's the state of listening, like the state of mind that is listening, the state of awareness that is listening. It counts. Not what we hear, not what we see, not what we understand conceptually, but the feeling of being fully in a state of listening. And then finally, we're going to move up to the tente, which is this, sort of, we call it the tente, it's the point in between our eyebrows. This is the center of insight. This is the center of noticing. And of course, it includes everything from your nose, it's the whole crown of the head, but the center of it goes right through from here. And when we close our eyes, we can feel the center very strongly. I think you'll experience that today if you're not experiencing it right now. And it's like there's a gem right there in the center of your eyebrows. And when we breathe into this, it enlivens. It's a feeling of great clarity. And again, clarity of what? There isn't something to be clear about. There isn't any information involved here. This is not a kind of knowing about something. This is just knowing itself, the state of mind, which is knowing. It's not something, none of this is anything we can use in daily life. This is not something you can buy or sell. You can't actually even talk about it, as you can see as I'm talking about it. It's like I'm pointing to something very near, but very far. There isn't a thing to grasp a hold of. When we talk about mind-body unification, we're talking about an exquisite and infinitely large state of openness and resting in this openness. So this is mind, body, meditation. All right, so maybe now we can do this together. First of all, is there any question about that you want to ask before we begin this? If you have any, didn't understand any part of that, please feel free to ask me. We'll have a chance later to discuss it further once you've practiced it with me. Okay. So we're going to sit up. And we'll close our eyes. Now, the key to this meditation is sort of surrendering to the breath. We let the breath lead us. So when I say follow the breath, we're really just in the breath completely. So we just, and as you are experiencing your breath now, I think you can feel it right in the one point in the lower abdomen, right in the lowest point in your abdomen. That's right. And of course, this point is supported by and includes everything from there down. So it includes our toes. And now I'm saying the feeling includes. So include the bottom of your feet and your ankles, your calves, our knees, our thighs, our buttocks, our genitals. And this one point in the lower abdomen, the feeling of this one point includes all of that. And now maybe you can feel the key vibrating in this body, every little tiny atom. That's what we feel when we feel our body. We're feeling everything in a deep state of calmness. It feels so calm. Our legs, our tummy. And when we do this at home, we can stay in any amount of time in each area, 20, 30 minutes if you like, or more. Really explore the feeling of equanimity, of accepting everything being exactly right. What a relief. Steady and clear. I'll move on now because we're in class. Can't take too much time. So now we were breathing into the one point. Now we just include in our breath the heart center in the middle of our chest. Here. Now we're breathing into the feeling of our entire lower body up to our chest, up to our heart. And our heart spreads out infinitely and includes everything. Of course, our fingers and hands and wrists and arms and shoulders and our whole chest is all a part of this heart. But more than that, it continues infinitely outward. So now the feeling of equanimity and the feeling of loving kindness as we breathe into these together, they're one thing and on two different distinct ways of seeing something. The feeling is the same. Equality becomes loving kindness, and loving kindness becomes equality. And isn't it so easy now to rest in this whole body? Of course, we become distracted now and then. There might be a pain in your knee or an itch in your ear, or maybe some thought about yesterday or tomorrow occurs to you. Or maybe even you notice that you're trying to do something, some part of this exercise. Whenever some distraction like that occurs, just return to the feeling. Immediately, just return and feel. This huge feeling. And now we can include in this feeling the throat area. And as we breathe into this now, we're breathing into everything from our jaw all the way down to the tips of our toes. It's just one big feeling. We're loving. We're listening. We're feeling equanimity. We're accepting. Now, really, this is complete. Already, this is complete. But there's one more center, and that center is the center where we know it's complete. And that knowing in itself is a kind of feeling, but it completes the feeling of the rest of the body. So now when we breathe into this point between our eyes and we breathe into this point in the lower abdomen, they're the same. They are the whole feeling of being here now. maybe you notice now that your breathing has slowed considerably. Because paying attention like this creates a deep sense of calmness. Paying attention on this level creates a calmness on this level. So our breathing is very slow, very even, very calm. Again, if you begin to feel, if you begin to become distracted by something, if something takes your attention away, or if you find that you're just looking at the feeling from a different point, then let that go. Just be the feeling. Just be in the feeling. We want to experience this feeling of unification of mind and body. That's all there is. It's just this sense of ultimate completion and satisfaction. No matter what happens, just return to this feeling. Maybe you can notice how this great feeling of calmness is so much more complete than the words and descriptions we have of it. But we can't really take this with us anywhere intentionally. This is just how we're feeling right now. What it feels like to be in this body and have a mind that is open. So as we open our eyes and begin to interact together again, don't try to hang on to the feeling, but see how it's always present in what is happening. Everything we say points to this experience. Everything that happens points to this experience. This is what I mean when I talk about following the way of the universe. The one and only thing the universe is doing at every moment is pointing us to this experience of mind-body unification, of completeness, of being who we are and have always been and will always be. Of course, there are always doubts and fears, anger, jealousy, all those kind of things come up. And those things all come up when we are afraid to look at, when we don't want to. We can't accept just who we are. We don't want to be just this. But if we really go deeply into just this, we can see how it includes everything already. All right, you can open your eyes now, please. So I'd like you to share with us, each of you share with us what this experience is like for you. Not just the feeling of being one with the universe, but all the attendant feelings, all the experience you just went through. Please speak up. Charles Boyer, please say something.
Good morning, Sensei. Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
I always enjoy a guided meditation like this. And I mean, it's one of the things that occurs to me is that it's almost like words, putting it in words, trying to describe this experience when it's a very profound and deep and moving one. It just kind of spoils the moment. I'm not trying to say I don't want to talk. I mean, I'm just saying that
okay.
Whatever I say won't.
Yes, of course.
Do it justice.
And everyone here knows this. That's why nobody wants to say anything. Because you don't want to break the spell. Like, you can't possibly say what this is like. But trying is everything. It's very important because when we reach to try to communicate this to another person, as impossible as it is, it gives us a different level of understanding about it. How do you say that? It seals the deal. you know, it's a little bit, that's like Shinichi Sensei says at the end of a seminar. Okay, take 5 minutes and talk about this and then tell me what you come up with. Well, he's saying that because he wants to seal the deal. He wants you to make it even more important to yourself because there's lots of levels of ourself. And there's a part of us that doesn't give a good damn about this. There's a part of us that would just as soon go have breakfast. There's a part of us that's not even going to remember and value. So that part needs to be included. That's a child that is running here, running there, getting this for me, me. So we all have this guy. We want to embrace him and bring him into the fold. So when we talk, when we express ourselves, we include him because we have to use him to do that. It's not a him or her, of course, but.
Thank you, Sensei. Well, I'll share then something, however limited. This feeling of, you talked about everything vibrating. That feeling, that experience, which when we experience it, it seems to begin within our body. But as the calmness grows, that experience seems to be everywhere, be all around us. And it's almost like we're in this bubble, this vibrating whole of experience, rather than it being that vibrational kind of energy experience being just localized somewhere.
So by whole, you mean WHOLE?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sensei.
Someone else, please.
Sensei? Hello, I'm
Hi.
Crystal. Yes.
Hi, Crystal.
This time I got the feeling that there is, at the end of the meditation, that there's more space between this duality. There's more space. Yes, I've got the feeling space, and this space feels very calm. I worked at the beginning of the meditation much with equanimity and and then go further and include the heart and the listening. I always remember when you say just listen and notice. And so I get the impression of, or no, feeling of more space, more whites, more, more emptiness. This was my experience.
And is it enough?
No, I think it's a never-ending story.
That's a good
Mhm.
answer. Thank you, Crystal. Someone else.
Good morning, Sensei. This is Gloria. Good morning,
Hi,
everyone, or
Gloria,
good evening.
morning.
There have been a couple of times in my life when I have suddenly found myself in a spot where I was just absolutely, totally calm. And that's what you call being accident prone, I think, when I described one of them to you when we were practicing cutting paper to practice to prepare for cutting bamboo. And I felt just totally overtaken by something that was, now I hesitate to say outside of myself, but it was, I didn't know what was happening, but I dropped the sword and cut the paper perfectly in two. And I was asked if I wanted to do it again. And it's one of those moments when you just have to sit in it. No, I did not want to do it again. But this morning, with the way you talked us through it, that was the closest I think I've come to that level of calmness. Just feeling that as a part of what we were doing.
Thank you, Gloria. Yeah, so this is what you can talk yourself through this anytime you want. You can wake up in the morning and sit down and start in your one point and include everything and add in everything and just take yourself through these points silently to yourself. All you're doing here, that's all we're doing is and the only thing that happened when you had your deep calmness experience, this inexplicable thing that just seems to happen out of nowhere, it's something that gets your attention. When our attention is called to the fore, we have an experience like this. Sometimes it happens when we're in great danger because it gets us to stop giving all of our energy to trivial, unimportant things, which we're constantly doing. We have this chitch going on all the time, all this needy. Instead, we just drop it all suddenly. And as the crystal says, there's only emptiness. There's just this. And this is so full, this emptiness. In Zen, they call this shunyata shunya, means full and empty at the same time. This is just a complete being who we are. And we can only experience it by paying great attention to it. So when I talk you through, of course, I'm helping you pay great attention to it. But we can each do this at any time we want. It's free. It doesn't cost a thing. Okay, thank you. Someone else, please.
Hello, Sensei. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Andre.
Today's meditation was for me kind of a new type because before I, visualized it kind of the points the chakras were kind of like valves and the body was like a balloon, you know. And today, when all parts of the body were included and kind of attached to a certain point, it was for me easier to breathe just to the points, and all body responds for this, and that was it was easier to visualize. Yeah.
Um, so even I know that it's important when we're doing Aikido to recognize the one point in the lower abdomen as the central point of movement. And it can be the central point of feeling also. But that's still a relative condition. When we go into a deeper level of attention, then we don't want to require a center, because the center is everywhere. Since we're infinite, the feeling is infinite. It's not just in a bubble. It's not just in a space. There's no reason to put a boundary on it. It's infinite experience. That means the center is everywhere. So when you have this experience, then you have to ask yourself, what is this? What am I? I think it doesn't take much of a stretch to see that we really have no limitations except the ones we give ourselves, except for the ones we insist on clinging to. And we cling to these because we don't know. It's the unknown. We can't imagine being no thing at all. Anybody would trade being no thing for being everything. We just have to experience that no thing is everything. When I talk like this, I'm not trying to make you confused, or I know it probably sometimes seems, but if you just listen to it, see, you know already what I'm saying. That little part that I was talking about with Carlos Boyer Sensei, that wants to run off and have breakfast. That's the same part that wants to say, yes, but what about this? And that's also the same part of us that needs to continue to think we are something, that there is some structure to this that we can depend on. That's still not Sosho. That's still Gyosho. In Sosho, it's not that there is no form. Of course there's a form. Right here. Of course there's a form. But it's gone from your needy mind, needy self. That needy self has disappeared. So then we can just be really, really free. Really free of any kind of limitation. I think, don't you think so? All right, so please, thank you, Andre, someone else.
Sensei Prakash.
Hello,
So as you were guiding us through the centers, then I felt the calmness happen in each center. I was very much located in the body, but when you connected the third eye to the one point, then I felt the top of my head open, and then there was this channel and then the body boundary left, and I could feel that one point and that emptiness of being nothing. Yeah.
Very nice. You know, this reminds me of what we call the unicorn phenomenon. At the top of the head, it becomes like a column of energy moving infinitely. And that's a stage of letting go of form, believe it or not, even though it's very form oriented when I talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a way of, this is a very, very important thing you're talking about, this experience of the top of the head opening. Because that's really what keeps us down here in our body. And excuse me, insisting on clinging to this what we see when we look in the mirror. So I think I'll tell you about something. We have a few minutes. Well, one of the exercises the first teacher gave me was called the Hall of the Ancients. And you go in the bathroom and you take your clothes off and you look in the mirror and you rest on everything in the mirror. You don't look at your eyes or your nose or your chest or your hair. You don't judge anything. You just look, gaze. And you have to stay there a long time, maybe half an hour. You can try this if you like. And this is basically what we're doing in meditation. We're sitting and we want to pay attention to the sitting, to the meditation, to the being, the feeling. Excuse me, but our mind trips and takes us off to different things that we think are important, right? You've had this experience. Everybody does. So when you do this Hall of the Ancients experience meditation, you look and you have the added advantage of your eyesight. And right away you'll see your eyes going, they can't look. You actually don't want to look at yourself because you're afraid of what you'll see. Well, what you're going to see ultimately is not at all what you think. It's called the Hall of the Ancients because you see image after image after image after image, and pretty soon they don't look anything like you at all. They look like everybody. And then if you stay long enough, then you get to the feeling itself of being here. And it's completely open and it's completely free of form. Now, this is not important. I'm not telling you, oh, you should do this exercise. Do it if you want to. But it's exactly what we're doing in meditation. Except that in meditation we don't have the sense of sight. We're not using that. We have this feeling that is all encompassing and includes everything. But we keep focusing on little feelings about something, which manifest as thoughts, of course, but they're feelings, they're little feelings. So when you start breaking it all apart into these little feelings, you forget. You make yourself kaisho. You make yourself form dominated. You make yourself conceptually bound. So it's impossible to be free. That's why we have to be really careful when we get really educated. We start to get really smart about our spiritual practice. Very dangerous. We get really expert at Aikido and really can do it and explain it and teach it well. Look out. Because we lose in the process of moving toward what we all always dream of. We leave what we dreamed of behind. We have to be like children again. All right, someone else, please. Thank you. It's okay, please say something. You can talk.
Hello, Sensei.
Hello,
Fernando.
hello, Vernon.
It becomes a really thought process, and this practice of guided meditation is an example of something that you said, that we can always do it ourselves and practice it. The more we do, the more that my thoughts become empty, not being focused on any thought. And it's the freedom of just being there. You can feel yourself. You can notice your inner self of the urge, and control, not so much control it, but just notice it. And it becomes a very deeper loving of yourself than anything else that I've experienced. And it's a great way to hone on this experience.
Yeah. A friend of mine described it once as, he said, it's like falling off a cliff backwards with no bottom, never arriving, always falling. And we fall and keep falling backwards until we learn to love it for itself. Because there can be there's nothing to relate to. There's nothing to cling to. There's nothing to make ourselves something. And even as we remember or review or maybe even analyze a little bit the experience that we had today, be careful that we don't encompass it and structuralize it and make it a structure, make it a something. The whole process of this talking through this mind-body meditation is leaving structure or form behind. Or it's not adding on, right? It's leaving it behind. So we're free of that. So maybe when we think of this together, well, on our own, we think of this, let's think of the feeling, just the feeling. We just remember the feeling. That's inadequate. But once you do this a lot, like I do this a lot, right? I do this a lot. So when I just bring up the thought of feeling, it begins. And it's so attractive, see? It's so attractive in itself that it takes my attention into it. So it's not the same as what happened this morning, but it is. Because now you're here, and Sue is here with you, and all of you are here. And this is just a different time. So it's completely different, but it invites us in together. You know, I'm just so glad that we're having this experience together. And I love to hear what you have to say yourself about it. Thank you. But one more. I want to hear one more person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Sensei. It's Phoenix.
Good morning.
I don't really have words either. What I'm noticing, though, is as I was moving through these points of my body, I have some focus there. But still now, since you've been talking, the feeling right here doesn't go. There's just something there. It's not a physical feeling. It's just like gratitude. Like all is well. I can't explain it, but I just
Yeah, you know, sometimes when you have a deep experience, it does stay with you for sometimes 2 or 3 days. One time I had an awakening that I couldn't even drive the car the next day. I was pretty useless for a couple of days. I couldn't go to work. I really couldn't do very much because it was so overwhelming. And I was frankly pretty terrified of the whole deal because I didn't know yet that it was okay to not be anybody. So that takes a little getting used to. But it sounds like you're enjoying it. That's very good. Very good. Yeah, so we've been through this so much together, you know. For 20 years. But and some of us for longer than that. But I mean, for this last year, we've had so much. We've explored this so much together that when we come to this kind of a class like today's, everybody, I think, is just in it right away. That is what it's all about. That's why we do this. So thank you, everybody, very much for doing this, sharing this with me, and being patient and experiencing it for yourself. Thank you. I'll see you again soon. Domo arigatou gozaimasu.